All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have questions. I've got answers. And you thought that maybe, I don't know, this YouTube channel's been going a long time. You thought I ignored your question from 4 years ago. And I'm going to say, no, I didn't. I was just waiting for this exact moment to answer it. Let's go. Okay, so this one comes from Phil Kohler, 8255. Thanks, Phil. 4 years ago, this comment was, and it was actually on a video where we were shooting a scene at the beach and we were using these big giant 12x12s and 20x12 negs to get a little bit of contrast back into the image. And we started with the wide and then we moved in closer. And the question is, why using such big neg fill like 12x12 when shooting so close angles? Is there an advantage why using it instead of 8x8 or smaller? Because I think 12x12 is pretty rough to handle, especially on the beach with much winds. Anybody a idea? Well, Phil, luckily I have an idea, and I'm here to answer. Why use giant neg when you're at the beach and it's windy? I would not recommend it if you didn't have a team of 5 or 6 grips. I definitely would not recommend having 12x20s at the beach. And usually people in the crew, either the grip or if you are working elsewhere in the world, sometimes it's the gaffers that do the bounces as well. I would say they're going to tell you that you can't do that because they don't want to be responsible for a 12x20 flying across the beach. And that will absolutely happen if you don't have the manpower to be able to hold that stuff down. The reason that we use, especially for the close-up stuff here, the reason that we use the 12x12 for the close-ups is if you have a large team, rather than building something completely new, it's easier just to walk in the 12x12. Now, I would like to use a 12x12 all of the time because it takes away more of the ambient. We don't use 12x12s because, like you suggested, it's very hard to manage and to wield on the day. Generally, even when I have a 12x12 that will come in and take away a lot of the ambient, I'm still going to bring in, probably for a close-up or like a mid-shot, I'm still going to bring in 2 4x floppies. Why? Because the 4x floppies are so much easier to manipulate close to camera. Like we're just going to bring in the 12x to take away ambient. It doesn't have to be, frame perfect to just the edge of the frame because that's too hard to manipulate. What I'm going to do is say, okay, now bring in 2 more floppies. And I can personally, even if I'm operating the camera, I can put the camera down. I can set the edge with the floppies myself. I don't have to communicate with anybody else. I can get the angle of the floppy just right. I'm going to have those on standby the whole time, but I'm going to tell the grips that before. I'm going to say, okay, we're going to do the wides with the 12x12s and the 20x12s, then have the floppies ready to go, just offset, because we're not going to change anything when we move in except the level of neg fill, right? Maybe we'll add a little bounce or a little eye light or something from below. We might do that kind of stuff, and I would tell them that too. But I would say, be ready with the floppies. As soon as we move in, just bring the floppies in. Like this is the rhythm that you have to get into when you're working with crew, which is why it's so good to work with people again and again and again who understand the flow and what you're going to want. I don't want to have to get in after we shoot the wide and say, okay, let's move into the close-up and we're going to bring in some of the floppies. And they're like still on the truck where they have to then be built and they have to get the stands and all this kind of stuff. And not that building a floppy is hard, but it's 60 seconds that you don't need. It's like, I don't want to be burdened with that. You want to make it clear to the grip or whoever's looking after that stuff that when we go in for the close-up on any situation all day long, please bring in the 2 floppies, okay? Have them ready to go because that eliminates a minute of just sitting there doing nothing. Sitting there doing nothing, go, oh man, should have got somebody else, should have got a different crew. Because that eliminates the 7 little minutes that you have with each shot to actually start tweaking. So I enjoy crew members who give me the ultimate luxury, which is having the most amount of time within that 7 minutes to manipulate with all hands on deck. Like that's when I need you actually to stop looking at your phone and just be ready to make a change. After that, once we start shooting, do whatever you want. You're free as a bird. But for those 7 minutes, I need you on. I need you ready to go. I need you with the things right next to set so we don't have to go to the truck. Please, can you do that? If the answer is yes, we're going to be friends. Okay, that's going to do it. That's why you would have big versus small, but I would suggest even if you have big, still having small. Okay, that's it for this one. Many thanks. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.